roots in the fallen leaves keep you safe from deadly thieves, and that's why you never let me hunt you down. Sunlight in her hair, silent on the stairs, and her freckled faces hang me out to dry, like some linens in the summer sky. Long summer nights are creeping. Hey, hey. Check, check. I got one foot in the cradle, just racing towards the grave. And I don't need anybody to help me along the way. But what if I told you that I could change and put down the bottle and fix my broken ways? Well, everything is for sale. It's got no value to me. It's so hard to find an answer for all that we seek. What if I told you that I could change and put down the bottle and fix my broken ways? Well, good evening, everybody. How we doing? Good. Glad to hear it. My name is Roland Roberts. For those of you who don't know me, I'm from just up the road in Alaska. Only took me 1 3.5-hour plane ride and one life flashing before my eyes to get here, and it was worth it. It's been a weird year up in Alaska. I was driving to the airport and it was pouring down rain, 35 degrees in the middle of January in Alaska. That is unheard of. And it got a little bit colder while I was standing in the TSA line, just long enough for the runway to freeze. The pilot hit the gas and the whole plane slid sideways. I was sitting beside this big tough guy, an oil worker from the North Slope, and he screamed. I won't scream to mimic him because it's too loud for this room. But when you hear a big, burly, tough guy scream, it's very unsettling. almost as unsettling as an entire plane sliding sideways on a runway. So I thought, well, there goes the tour. Looks like I'm not going to make night one. Ladies and gentlemen, I do apologize for the delay. Bit of a mishap there. We're going to have to back up and try that again. It's like, back up and try it again. But he did it. He backed up and tried it again, and the second time it worked. And as soon as we got airborne, he said, okay, we made it off the ground, just so you know. I'm not going to be able to turn the seatbelt sign off for the entire flight. It's going to be a little bit bumpy. And he was not making that up. I had to sit down for an entire 3.5 hours. I don't know if any of you have trouble sitting still, but I do, and that was a very long time. But I didn't say anything, you know. I kept it cool. And when the wheels hit the runway in Portland, that big tough guy sitting beside me just took a deep breath. He said, you know, I flew out this morning on an ice runway from Dead Horse, and that plane didn't slide. So I said, okay. It wasn't just me, but I was very scared. That has nothing to do with this song at all. I just want to tell you guys about my trip down. This is a song I wrote with a buddy of mine from London, England, not Ohio. London, England's way cooler than London, Ohio. I don't know if you've ever been to either one. I would recommend England, not Ohio so much. Well, doesn't anybody have an answer? I'm down on my knees, just begging for forgiveness. Won't somebody help me, please? And what if I told you that I could change and put down the bottle and fix my broken ways? I'm gonna put down the bottle and fix my broken ways. All right, thank you very much. That one was called The Bottle. And what a great room this is. Oh my goodness, this is like a poster for what an American coffee shop should be. You know, I'm going to tell everybody in every coffee shop I play after this, take a page from Rhythms in Olympia. They got it down. We do have a nice little coffee shop in my little town in Alaska. It's called Vagabond Blues. And Palmer is the little town I live in. It's in the Matanuska Valley. I'm sure you all have heard of it. You know, it's a very big place. I think there's 700, maybe 800 people that live there. But it has the same vibe as this. They have a much cooler posters in Rhythms than they do in Vagabond Blues. But it's a pleasure to be here nonetheless. I think this is the first coffee shop I've ever been to that has a wall of teas. So that's nice. Hope everybody had a good holiday season. Mine was really nice. I'll tell you more about it later. This is a brand new song. I wrote this for a show I did a couple of weeks back in Anchorage. It's a show called Parlor. I say a couple of weeks. It's been over a year now. Man, time flies, doesn't it? This is called Made for You. And the guy that puts on the show's called Parlor in the Round, and 10 days prior to the show, he sends you a prompt over an email, and you have to write a song and play it in front of a sold-out theater 10 days later. And my prompt was Made for You. So this is what I came up with. Dave, you were right. This is really good tea. Oh, wow. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, Milo Matthews. see you. So this is called Made for You. They basically send you a prompt, and you're in with two other writers, and everybody has to write their own song, and it's really fun to see what everyone comes up with. And this one, for me, Made for You, the first thing that came to me was just how everyone's walk in life is different, and sometimes, you know, your journey's really good, and sometimes it's really tough, and you couldn't have the good times without the tough times, and vice versa. And you know, for me, just recognizing that and knowing that when it's bad, it seems like it won't be good again, and when it's good, it seems like it won't be bad again, really helps to know that, you know, things tend to right themselves, but you always just got to keep putting one foot in front of the other. So that's what I wrote this one about. This is called Made for You. Have you ever wondered how you got this far? How it came together? Ain't it so bizarre? What if you took a left when you took a right? Would you even be sitting here tonight? Sometimes it's hard to see the glass half full when you're moving mountains by the handful. But in the end, more time can't be bought. That's why they say the ride is all you got. Right or wrong, it's all your own. There ain't much you can do. Just enjoy the view. Made for you. Playing with a rig deck when you try to compare how you got here to how they got there. Well, that'll steal your smile like a street corner thief and keep holding you down. Well, it's a sad motif, but in the end, more time can't be bought. That's why they say the ride is all you got. Right or wrong, it's all your own. There ain't much you can do. Just enjoy the view. It's made for you. If you just look twice, you'll most always see something worth smiling about, maybe even two or three. So talk to strangers and laugh when you can, and don't waste a minute holding out for a better hand. 'Cause in the end, more time can't be bought. That's why they say the ride is all you got. Right or wrong, it's all your own. There ain't much you can do. So just enjoy the view. Made for you. Just enjoy the view. Made for you. All right, thank you. So 52 and sunny today in Portland. That is a July day in Alaska. I came out of the airport last night. It was 47 degrees, and I took my jacket off. I was like, man, it feels like 4th of July out here. Trying my best not to rub it in with my fiance. She is an ICU nurse and could not get off this week to come down. Normally we go to Mexico the first 2 weeks of January, but I had this tour, and so I said, well, you can come with me. You know, Washington, Mexico, it's about the same. And she was not able to get off work. This is her first year out of nursing school, so I've not been able to talk about how happy I am about the weather. I had 3 people thank me for bringing the sunshine today. I don't get that compliment very often, so cheers to that, huh? This one's called Picture on the Wall. This is off of my first record. I do have both of my albums for sale up here. If you happen to own a vehicle that was manufactured prior to 2010 and you still have a CD player, take one with you. Or buy one anyway and give it to somebody for their birthday just for the laugh. Open a present. Great, a CD. Cool. Yeah. I did not know that vinyl was a much hotter seller than CDs, and that's cool. I love to see things going back in the other direction. But this is called Picture on the Wall. This one's about growing up and getting old and losing touch with friends, and how it's not really anybody's fault, you know, and certainly nobody wants that to happen, but the older you get, the faster time seems to move, and you know, you could think you talked to someone last week, but it was actually 5 years ago, and then you see them, and you're like, oh, wow, has it really been half a decade? No, my goodness. Doesn't seem like that long ago, and that happened to me right as I was getting ready to move from Denver. I've been in Alaska for 8 years now, and the last night I was in Denver, I walked into a bar to go meet a friend for a goodbye drink, and the bartender was an old friend of mine whom I hadn't seen in almost 10 years, and we had a laugh about how fast time went by, and I wrote this song that night. This is called Picture on the Wall. The world was yours. You hadn't found out when it rains, it pours. Had the world at your toes. You're gonna see how it goes. Nobody ever told you that one day you might look in the mirror and not like the face looking back at you. Well, how could that be true? That was back before you knew hard luck or what it felt like to be so stuck when you're trying to walk but you can't even crawl. Can't tell if you're changing or if you're not changing at all, like a picture on the wall. I made so many friends all along the way, and even though I don't talk to them every day, I love them all the same. Nobody to blame. For growing apart like grown-ups do. It ain't on me and it ain't on you. It just happens that way when tomorrow's today. Yeah, we get so busy, we make ourselves dizzy, like juggling feathers, trying to keep it together. Can't tell if we're changing or if we're not changing at all, like a picture on the wall. Change is the only thing that's certain, so turn the page and draw the curtain and laugh at how it all just seems the same. Walking down an old road a couple weeks ago, saw an old friend I used to know, way back when it was about to begin. He just laughed and said, when I saw you last, 25 was old, now the future's the past. Just look at us now, I wish I knew how. To let so much life go by without asking questions or wondering why. The world seems to turn faster when you're ducking disaster, and I thought you would have changed, but you hadn't changed at all, like a picture on the wall. All right, thank you. That was my first big hit. And by first big hit, I mean that's the first one my Uncle Paulie ever heard on the radio. And he called me up. I thought he had just won the lottery or something. He was so excited. He lives in Asheville, North Carolina, or just outside of Asheville, North Carolina, up on a mountain, thank goodness. But he called. He was very excited. I thought something huge must have just happened. And to him and to me, I guess now that I think about it, it was huge because he held the phone up to the speaker, and I was in my head like, did I already mail him a CD? And I hadn't. And he said, man, they're playing you on the radio. And that was the coolest thing that had ever happened to me. Still, really, now that I think about it. Okay, this is one off of my most recent album. This one is the title track off of that record. This one's called So It Goes. And I wrote this the morning after my 37th birthday. I turned 36 in 2020. And I turned 37 in 2021. I know, shocker, right? It was a weird year, all other things 2020 aside. My very first phone call of 2020 was news that my father had passed away on New Year's Eve. And I was scheduled to do my first album release on January the 3rd, so we had to reschedule. And we rescheduled the album release for March the 10th of 2020. And we did the album release show, and we had 2 tours planned, one in the States and another one in Europe. And COVID happened, so that all went away. And funny enough, that record was called All About the Timing. So a record called All About the Timing. I don't know that the timing could have been much worse. But it pulled us off the road, but it did kind of make me focus more on getting on the radio and, you know, whatever else I could do with this album. I just spent so much money recording. And it kind of opened the doors to some things that I never thought could happen, did happen, because everyone was at home listening to music instead of going out to shows. So that was, you know, a very low moment, followed by a very high moment, followed by a very low moment, followed by a very high moment, followed by another very low moment. In June of that same year, I lost my younger brother, and about 6 months apart from my dad. And, you know, the year went on. And so anyway, as I turned 37, I just was thinking about that last year and how some of the worst things that had ever happened to me happened, and some of the best things that had ever happened to me happened in the same year. And I wrote this one in about 30 minutes, sitting there having coffee. And just so you know, that doesn't always happen. To write a song in 30 minutes is unheard of, for me anyway. It usually takes lots of writing and rewriting and saying I hate it and throwing it away and bringing it back and so forth. So it's nice when they come out quick. It almost makes the job... Nah, it doesn't. I was going to say easier, but nah, it doesn't. Anyway, this one's called So It Goes. Another circle around the sun, and I guess that I had some fun. A couple laughs, a couple cries too. Still ain't sure what matters most. I still ain't sure I believe in ghosts, but I sure ain't sure that I know what to do. Well, I felt so old since I was young. I was just a kid when I walked among all the thoughts that make a boy a man. The world's weight on my shoulders when I wasn't any older than the days when growing up it just began. But life doesn't come with a manual or instructions. No one can ever tell you what to do. And if you think too long, you'll turn around and it's all gone. Time never slows. So it goes. Well, we spend all our time searching for the answers to the questions that most of the time can't be answered at all. Sweating about tomorrow while we're fretting over yesterday, afraid to jump 'cause we're worried about the fall. And meanwhile, all the moments that make up all the stories that are really all that's left when it's all gone keep passing without asking where they're going, and there's no knowing if any of it's right or if it's wrong. But life doesn't come with a manual or instructions. No one can ever tell you what to do. And if you think too long, you'll turn around and it's all gone. Time never slows. So it goes. Some days my whole world is tossed due to devastating loss, and others due to joy that I've never known. It seems that one thing breeds the next, and I don't think I've been so perplexed as trying to figure how to be alone. But highs and lows are the way it goes, and where it ends nobody knows. Most can't even say where it begins. But lessons learned and bridges burned, and the way that all our stripes are earned are what ensures that everybody wins. But life doesn't come with a manual or instructions, and no one can ever tell you what to do. And if you think too long, you'll turn around and it's all gone. Time never slows. So it goes, 'cause time never slows. So it goes. Thank you. That one was called So It Goes. Again, you guys, my name is Roland Roberts. I think a few of you in here do know who I am, and that is unbelievably flattering to be so far away from home and have people show up. It's always a very strange feeling when you step out of Alaska, because it's like its own country up there. And, you know, we've been playing for 5 or 6 years up there now, and we got to where we have a lot of friends, and, you know, the shows are usually pretty full. And when you step out, especially, I'm used to playing with a 5-piece band, so to be by myself in a whole new town and a whole new state, you just never know how it's going to go. And this could not be going any better, I don't think. What a great room, a great crowd. So thank you guys so much for being here. I really appreciate it. This is another new one. I think we're heading into the studio sometime this year. 25 is going to be a big one. I started off, I've got, I think, 8 days down here. And then I'm going home for 3 weeks, and then I'm headed to the Great Lakes region. I hear it's really nice in February, so I'm I'm gonna go do a run there with a friend of mine, and then back to Alaska, then to Arizona, and then I'm going to Mexico to get married in late April. Thank you, and then I'm gonna be back in this part of the country with my full band in late May. We're gonna go up and play the Seattle Folklife Festival, and then we're gonna put together a little run, and hopefully we get to drop back into rhythms. I'll bring my whole band and make them all play acoustic instruments. I'll make my drummer tap on the floor with some drumsticks. It'll be great. We'll figure it out. I actually started out as an acoustic solo guy, and then I started playing keys, and I quickly found out it's much easier to get hired as a piano player than as a guitar player, because no one really plays. We hadn't decided yet. Yeah. It's up for discussion. You know, I hadn't thought of that. That's actually, I'm reading your mind, and that is a very good idea. But this is a new one here. This one is called Things I'll Never Do. This is one of the more recent songs I've written. It's about how sometimes people ease their way into your life, and you get so used to them being there that you don't really realize that they may not be the best for you. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a romantic relationship. It can be friends or any type of relationship, really. But if you're not careful, some people that insist on not doing well can insist on you not doing well as well. That's a lot of wells. And I didn't know that was happening to me, and I tried everything I could to fix things with a certain friend, and I just couldn't. And in the end, I had another friend kind of step in and was like, you're going to have to let this go. And I did, and shortly thereafter, I started realizing how that's not good. You know, if you're being the best you can be and it's not good enough for someone, friend, girlfriend, husband, you know, whatever it might be, if your best isn't good enough, then that's not your problem, you know. And I wrote this one shortly after that. Now, this is called Things I'll Never Do. Take a walk on the moon, learn to bobsled in June, or have coffee with the Pope on a rainy day. Smoke another cigarette, or spend a day full of regret about cutting ties and letting go of you. With just some things that I'll never do. Learn to walk a tightrope, or give up all of my hope, like you seem to think is just what I should do. And try to make the wrong thing right, or get drawn into another fight that'll make me make a victim out of you. But just some things that I'll never do. Try to figure how you made up those lies to come up with some alibis to corroborate the hate you felt was due. Or sit around trying to change the past, wondering why some friends don't last, or what I did to draw said hate from you. Well, just some things that I'll never do. Try to make a straight line straighter, or say I'll see you later, when it's plain to see that only goodbye will do. Not wish you the best, or lose another night of rest, trying to see things from your point of view. Well, just some things that I'll never do, like try to figure how you made up those lies to come up with some alibis to corroborate the hate you felt was due. Or sit around trying to change the past, wondering why some friends don't last, or what I did to draw said hate from you. They're just some things that I'll never do. They're just some things that I'll never do. All right, thank you. That one's called Things I'll Never Do. This one is off of my first record called All About the Timing. I wrote this one on the road when I went out on the road for the very first time. It was a very unbelievable experience. I lived in Colorado for 10 years, and I worked there doing all kinds of jobs. And one of them was a singer-songwriter, another one was a piano player for hire, but it was never more than an hour outside of Denver, with the exception of one trip. And I went out with a band as a hired piano player all the way to Chicago and back. But I'll tell you that story in a little while. The first time I ever went out for any extended period of time as a solo artist was to go to Alaska. And it didn't start out so much as a tour as just a camping trip and a find myself trip, if you will. But it quickly turned into a tour because I played one show in Great Falls, Montana, and it went so well that the owner of that brewery called a guy up the road in Lethbridge, Alberta, and said, "I'm going to send this guy up your way," and so on and so forth. And a week or two later, I was at a festival in northern British Columbia called the Atlin Lake Music Festival. And I met a very, very sweet friend there who was teaching a textile class on how to upcycle clothes. So it's like how to take old, shabby clothes and make them cool and hip. I don't know anything about being cool and hip, so I was fascinated by that. And anyway, we became great friends. And she was from Toronto and had an extra week after the festival. And I don't know if any of you have ever been up in the North Country, but once you get up past Edmonton, it gets very rural very quickly. And I convinced her to hop in the truck with me and go cruise around and do some camping and hiking and kayaking and all that stuff. And we just had an absolute ball. And I dropped her off a week later at the airport in Whitehorse, and that's a little city in the Yukon. And I have not seen her since. That was 7 years ago. We do keep in touch, but it was a very great week, and we became very fast friends. And that's something that can happen out on the road. But I wrote this one shortly after I dropped her off. This is called Beautiful Soul. I heard winter was rough in Toronto. You should come to Colorado, 'cause I swear the sunshine here, it'll make you smile. You could stay a while. We can stay up all night talking like we did up in the Yukon, in that cabin out in the woods last July, when you saw me cry. And where you came from, I don't know. I just thank my lucky stars and go about my day wondering how I paid the toll to find such a beautiful soul. Well, just to speak of the things we spoke of was like a dream, but I never woke up. I can't believe how easily you got to me and made me see that all those heavy loads I carried were too much for me to bear, and I'd become so tangled up in all that's wrong. Well, I was almost gone. And where you came from, I don't know. I just thank my lucky stars and go about my day wondering how I paid the toll to find such a beautiful soul. I'm sure we'll meet again on down the road in some other place, only heaven knows. Till then I'll try to keep you on my mind most of the time. 'Cause it's a lovely life we're living, and I'm so happy to have been given just a little chance to see that side of you when you saw me too. And where you came from, I don't know. I just thank my lucky stars and go about my day, wondering how I paid the toll to find such a beautiful soul. How did I ever pay the toll to find such a beautiful soul? Thank you. That one was called Beautiful Soul. Yeah, you too, man. Yeah, no worries. I started early, and I've got to take off as soon as I'm done. I'm playing again in Portland tonight. Yeah, I will. Because we'll be back in May, so maybe we'll chat about firing up the studio a little bit. I'll be down with the boys in May. Yeah. All right, well, I'll talk to you. Thanks, brother. Have a good one. All right, that one's called Beautiful Soul. I'm trying to go old album, new song. And I lost track of where I was because Milo distracted me. So I think I'm going to play one off of my newest record. And this one's kind of heavy. I wrote this on the way home from my little brother's funeral. So he passed away in June of 2020. Not a good time to be traveling, if you all don't remember. It was very wild. They hadn't started mass producing masks yet. So you had to wear those big Darth Vader Home Depot, those ones. It was terrible. You looked like a giant fly, and they had this latex thing. It was the worst. And you can imagine the mood I was in anyway, you know, going to my brother's funeral. And the Seattle airport employees were wearing yellow hazmat suits. It was very scary. And I went down, we did the ceremony and everything, and then I was headed home. I just wanted to go back to Alaska and get away from Memphis and the South and everything that reminded me of my brother. And flying from Memphis to Seattle to change planes, arguably one of the worst flights I've ever been on. There was some poor child that could not get their ears to pop. And because of that, they were screaming at the top of their lungs. Everyone's wearing these awful masks. It was just the worst. And I don't know why or how, but for some reason, I wrote every word of this song. I'd never written a song without a guitar or a piano. And I wrote all these words, and I sat down and put them to music in the Seattle airport as I was waiting on my next flight to come through. And I was singing it in my head because I couldn't sing inside that big, stupid Darth Vader mask that I had to wear. This is called Thoughts and Prayers. So another little thing. My brother was one of these guys. He might say 5 words a day, but 3 of them were probably going to be some of the funniest things you've ever heard in your life. He was very quiet, but very, very funny. And I don't know if you've ever been to a funeral in the South, but you get a lot of people that you don't know saying thoughts and prayers. And it gets very old very quickly because, you know, you appreciate how sorry everyone is, but after about 100 sorries, you're like, I can't do this anymore. And so we're standing. My dad was a fairly well-known guy in Memphis, and a lot of people came to his visitation, and there was a very long line out the door, and we're just having to stand there. It's a very weird thing to do and say hey to all these strangers on the worst day of your life. And my brother's standing there, and he just looks over at me and goes, "The next motherfucker that says thoughts and prayers is getting punched in the face." And it was all I could do not to laugh because I knew he didn't actually mean that, but we all felt that way. And almost as though it were on cue, this distant relative of ours, something like my grandmother's cousin or something, came up and just very blankly said, "I just want you to know my thoughts and my prayers are with you." And like, we both just cracked up laughing right in Aunt Gay's face. And she thought we were deranged for laughing at a funeral, and I hope she thought we were laughing at her because we definitely were. I haven't talked to her since. I should probably follow up on that now that I think about it. But anyway, I was flying out 6 months later, and I just thought of that moment, and I was thinking about my brother, and it made me laugh. And I wrote this one. Flying. Okay, wrong key. Sorry. Flying over the Rockies, stopping in Seattle. I hope I make it home before my cage gets too rattled. Life ain't fair, and that's just that. You don't know who really cares. 'Cause when the chips are down, everyone's sorry, sending thoughts and prayers. And I can't believe you left so soon. They say you'll be forever young. Well, I ain't sure about that now, but there's still songs to be sung. So I'll just put a foot out front and follow it with the next. And try not to wish my life away while I'm hoping to get some rest. And there really ain't a point in asking why. 'Cause we all got a place and a time to die. So hope that when yours comes, that you've handled your affairs. 'Cause all that's left are thoughts and prayers. I never understood the way you went about it. Any move you ever made, I would always doubt it. And you'd laugh and pay me no mind and do it your own way. I never knew no one gave less of a damn about what others had to say. And there really ain't a point in asking why. 'Cause everybody's got a place and a time to die. So hope that when yours comes, that you've handled your affairs. 'Cause all that's left are thoughts and prayers. Well, I can't recall you ever judging anyone, worrying about the life they live, the race they chose to run. You always gave the last you had to anyone in need. Never worried about what happened next or if you'd ever be free from the consequence of such a call, the outcome in the end. And I guess that's why most that knew you called you a friend. And there really ain't a point in asking why. 'Cause everybody's got a place and a time to die. So hope that when yours comes, that you've handled your affairs. 'Cause all that's left are thoughts and prayers. All that's left are thoughts and prayers. All right, thank you very much. All right, I think that was 3 sad ones in a row. I broke some rules there. I normally don't do that. Let's do a happy one, huh? This is another new one. So I told you I got engaged last February, almost a year ago. And when I met my fiance, I had just finished rafting the Grand Canyon, and I bought a van for the band in Flagstaff, Arizona. And I picked it up on a Sunday, and I thought that I had 2 weeks to be back in Alaska before we had a show. So I was like, all right, 14 days is plenty of time to make it from Arizona to Alaska. And I posted something, hey, got the new band van, see you in 2 weeks, Alaska. And my drummer very quickly messaged me. He was like, yeah, man, that's not next Saturday. That's this Saturday. So you've got 4 days to get here. And the show is sold out, 250 tickets. So there's no not making it. So you have to get here. So I drove 4 12-hour days in a row and made it. And I had just enough time to stop by my house and change clothes and pick up my guitar and take off to Homer, which is 6 hours on the other side of where I live. And I walked on stage like a zombie, like not knowing if I was going to be able to pull it off. And it was a sold-out room. You know, everybody had bought tickets, and so there's no going half speed. Like, people paid money to come. We're going to give them a show. And I was trying to figure out how I was going to do it. And in walked my future wife, and we had never met. And she walked right into the front row and sort of gave me a wink and said, "I heard you guys were good. Let's hear it." And it was as though there was no one else in the room. And I played that entire show while never taking my eyes off of her. And we visited for a little while after the show, and we exchanged numbers. And she was living in Homer, and I live in Palmer, which I know they sound similar, but they're pretty far away from each other. So, well, maybe we'll get to see each other later this summer or something. You know, it's 6 hours. And she said, "Well, probably not. I'm a commercial fisherman. I fish on my dad's fishing boat, and we take off the first week of June." And this was in early May. And so I said, "Well, we have a big show in Palmer the first week of June. Maybe you could come up, and, you know, it'll be a big thing. It's kicking off the summer up there." And she said, "Okay, I'll come up before that." And as luck would have it, a few days later, I got a call that required me to turn around and drive back to another town that was about an hour north of Homer. And so I called her and was like, "Hey, you know, no big deal or anything, but I got to come back for work this week. Maybe we could go out to dinner." And she said, "Yeah, I'd love that." And I didn't tell her that I was going to be, you know, 90 miles from where she lived. I was just tacking on that so we could go out. And we went out to dinner and had a couple of glasses of wine while we were sitting there. And she said, "Well, you probably shouldn't drive 6 hours home. Let's go back to my cabin and we can get another bottle of wine and, you know, talk." And anyway, our first date lasted for 3 days. And on the morning of the third day, she had to go to work. And she said, "Well, you know, you don't have to leave. I've got to go into work, but I'll be off in a few hours." So I said, "All right, well, I'll hang around." And as she was there, I was sitting there. It was going really well. You know, a 3-day-long first date has the potential to run out of steam, if you will. And so I was sitting there trying to think, when she gets off work, how can I still convince her to think that I'm cool? And so I wrote this song for her while she was at work. And it worked, because we're getting married in April. So this is called "Sweet Sorrow." And we've all heard the old saying, "Parting is such sweet sorrow." And I thought that ain't always the case. So I wrote this one. This is called "Sweet Sorrow." Well, if there's one thing that I regret, it's running out of time on the night we met. The show flew by and you had to go, and I was so sad, 'cause I didn't know if I would ever see you again. So I called you up the very next day. I said, "Darling, I don't think there's any way that I could just go back home and leave you here all alone. So baby, maybe I'll come back and stay. You know, I don't think that I can wait until June. I won't even make it till the next full moon. So darling, won't you let me come back tomorrow? You know, parting ain't sweet sorrow when it happens much too soon." Well, a couple days later, I was driving through the fog on my way to come see you and your little dog. Down in your cabin on the hill, and I don't know if I ever will be happier to be going anywhere. 'cause I don't think that I could wait until June. I won't even make it till the next full moon. So darling, won't you let me come back tomorrow? You know parting ain't sweet sorrow when it happens much too soon. Well, I couldn't say just where this will go from here, but I can tell you that I really ain't got much fear. Because somehow I just know we ain't gonna let each other go. Yeah, what we found, it ain't gonna disappear. That's why I don't think that I can wait until June. Well, I won't even make it till the next full moon. So darling, won't you let me come back tomorrow? You know parting ain't sweet sorrow when it happens much too soon. Said, darling, won't you let me come back tomorrow? You know parting ain't sweet sorrow when it happens much too soon. Thank you. I was really glad to put a line in there about her little dog. It's now my little dog. I have 2 dogs now, and it's the cutest little dog. It's not a dog I would have picked. I didn't know this about myself, but I wasn't a fan of shaggy, scrappy-looking dogs, and now I am, because I have one, and she's the sweetest little thing ever. Anyway, that's enough sappiness. Let's do another happy song. This one's off of my first record. It's about an old hippie that I used to know, or I still know. I graduated from Troy University down in South Alabama some years ago. And I have a degree in advertising and a second degree in journalism. And my first job out of college was working for the Denver Post. And when I got the job, it was everything that I wanted and everything that you would hope for as a young kid coming out of college. I was working for a big newspaper in a big city, and I thought it was going to be awesome. And friends, I got to tell you, I don't know that I've ever hated anything more in my whole life. And it's a weird thing to have happen at that age, when you spent 4 years working on something and then you start doing it and you realize that it is not for you at all. And I shared a cubicle with this guy named Joe, and turns out it wasn't for him either. Even more so, and in the middle of the day, one day, he just shoved back from his desk and said, "I'm not doing this anymore," and walked out. Middle of the day, and I had no idea you could even do that. I thought he might get arrested or something. Blew my mind, and the rest of the week, I was like, I wonder what he's going to do with himself if he's not gonna wear a suit and work at the Denver Post. And so by Friday evening, I had to go to his house and find out, and this is pre-social media. Really, it was just starting to come out, but like hashtag van life was not a thing at all. And I got to his house, and he had bought an old 90s Volkswagen van and was kind of outfitting it to live in, and then he was just going to go out on the road. And again, this was not something that I knew people did at the time, and so it just blew my mind. He had no job, no plan. He was just going to go and live in his van. And I was very envious, but not nearly as brave as him, so it took me another 10 years to go out on the road. But I did go home and write this song almost immediately. This one's called Ramblin' Joe. VW van and a tank top tan. He left town with a brand new plan. Ramblin', he's old Ramblin' Joe. He's got nowhere to be and everywhere to go. Well, they tell you if you want to be happy, don't waste time. Get a house, a new car, and a credit line. Not till then will your friends or your folks think you're doing fine. But old Joe just laughed and said that might be for you. I'm gonna do what I like and I'm gonna like what I do. So enjoy your race and I'll see you on my next time through. VW van and a a tank top tan. He left town with a brand new plan, rambling, his old rambling Joe. He's got nowhere to be and everywhere to go. So I used to say, and Joe took off on the road, and that was the last time I ever saw him. And last I heard, he was still out there. And fast forward a handful of years, and Joe heard this song on the radio in Michigan, and he looked it up on YouTube and found a live version of me sitting in a room similar to this one, telling a story just like I am right now. And it ends with, I never saw Joe again. So he called me and was like, dude, you got to stop saying that. That makes me sound like a weirdo. And I was like, all right, well, I'll change the story, but you're going to have to tell me what you're up to. And as it turns out, he moved back to northern Michigan, where he was from, and started his own custom van shop. And now he sells custom vans to all the hashtag van life kids that you see all over the internet. So full circle, you know. Some might call him lazy, and some might call him crazy. But Joe, he doesn't care if you call him at all, because he doesn't have anything he don't need. He won't ever have to beg or plead, 'cause old Joe ain't never got his back up against the wall. Just a VW van and a tank top tan. He left town with a brand new plan, rambling, his old rambling Joe. He's got nowhere to be and everywhere to go. I recorded this song at Old Crow Recording up in Whitehorse, in a studio in the barn of a very well-known producer up there. And his name is Bob Hamilton. He's very Canadian. And, you know, I was born in Memphis. I grew up in South Alabama. And down in the South, they don't say W ever. They say W. And it's, you know, it's incorrect. I know that. But I do like the way it sounds, so I never bothered to change it, even in this song. So Bob mixed and mastered and produced the whole record. And for those of you who don't know, in order to do that, you pretty much have to listen to every song on there like 1,000 times each to get it right. So Bob had heard this song 1,000 times at least, and 2 years later we went back to Old Crow Recording to record album number 2, and I was telling him about Joe, and I sang the line, VW van and a tank, and he stopped me in the middle of the song and said, you mean to tell me that that's VW van? I said, yeah. VW van and a tank top tan. He was like, I've heard that song 1,000 times, and I thought it was beat up van. Just a VW van and a tank top tan. He left town with a brand new plan, rambling, he's old rambling Joe. He's got nowhere to be and everywhere to go. Yeah, he's got nowhere to be and everywhere to go. All right. Time flies when you're having fun. I've got about another 22 minutes, and then I think there is an arts and crafts workshop coming up after this. I've opened for lots of acts in my days. I've never opened for an arts and craft workshop, so check that one off. It's a real pleasure to be here. You know, I've been through Olympia on Interstate 5 a few times. I've never gotten off, though. What a great town. This is really cool. I had no idea this was the capital of Washington. I found that out today. So learn something new. You know you're doing good when you're still learning new stuff. Hey, thanks for coming in, you guys. Have a good one. This one's called the Cover Band Blues. This is about the follies of being a songwriter nobody's ever heard of. All crowds are not great crowds like you guys. Sometimes you get stuck in a corner and you're just banging away and you'll tell a great story that was really funny and no one laughs because they're not listening to you. And then you pour your heart out and play a great song that you wrote, and then somebody yells, play some Skinnerd or something like that, you know. And it's just part of the job. What are you going to do? And so I was playing one night. One of my first gigs in Alaska was at the classiest joint in the whole state. It's called the Mugshot Saloon. And it's pretty much a black tie kind of place, you know. It's coming up in the world. They've gone as far as to remove the chicken wire cage that used to be around the stage. They don't have that anymore, so it's classy now, you know. Anyway, terrible place. And I had a lady come up one night. It was just me, it was similar to this, and she came up and spilled about half a beer in the monitor and asked if I could play some Twisted Sister. And I laughed because, like, what a request, right? And I was like, well, I can get close. How about, you know, John Prine? She didn't get the joke at all, and nor did anyone else in there. I think they all wanted to hear Twisted Sister. I didn't have a Twisted Sister song for them. But I went home and I wrote this one. This is called the Cover Band Blues. I'm sorry, mister, but I can't play Twisted Sister. I'm afraid I don't know any Motley Crue. And yeah, I'm sure they burned it down when they played Sweet Home Alabama, but you know that's something that I just can't do. But if you might be in the mood for a sad old song about some old dude you've never heard of, well, I got one for you. Cover band blues. I got them cover band blues. 'Cause nobody wants to hear a song about how all my nights are long. Just play some Skinner and keep them all amused. Well, yeah, I'm sure it would make your day if I could play Sitting on the Dock of the Bay. Otis was the man, I will agree. And I'll admit I heard it said they sound more like the Grateful Dead than the Grateful Dead ever sounded like themselves. But when it comes to Shakedown Street, the boys and me, we got two left feet. But I did write one about an old hippie named Joe. Cover band blues. I got them cover band blues. Nobody really gives a damn to hear about my master plan or my thoughts on what I saw on the news. I am a huge Grateful Dead fan, by the way. I wrote that line because I took my stepdad to go see the Dark Star Orchestra, and I don't know if you've ever heard of them, but they're a band that's so good at covering the Grateful Dead. If you didn't know any better, you'd think you were listening to the Grateful Dead, and so much so that they've played Red Rocks, they played the Fillmore, never wrote a song in their life, just played Grateful Dead songs. And we went to go see them, and we were leaving, and my stepdad looked like he'd seen a ghost or something. I was like, are you all right, man? Did you enjoy the show? He was like, that was weird. They sounded more like the Grateful Dead than the Grateful Dead, and that's where that line came from. Well, I can't tell if it's a curse or it's the best thing or the worst that's happened when it happened suddenly. I started writing all of my problems down, coming up with a happy sound, 'cause I was pretty sure they weren't just happening to me. I thought if no one likes it, well, that's just fine, 'cause making all my problems rhyme is a whole lot cheaper than going to therapy. Cover band blues. I got them cover band blues. 'Cause nobody wants to sit around and hear about what's got me down. Just play Garth Brooks and keep them all amused. Cover band blues. I got them cover band blues. Yeah, nobody wants to hear a song about my whole life full of doing wrong. Just play Wagon Wheel and keep them all amused. All right, thank you. Is there one in particular you guys want to hear? Yeah, I know. Okay. I forget that I'm not in Alaska, because that's like, it's now like our thing to play Alaska Time last, because in Alaska, like half the people, that's the only song they know. I'm like, all right, well, if you want to hear that one, you got to stay for the whole show. It works very well. The bar makes more money, we get more tips, it's awesome. But anyway, I get out of there and I forget that I'm not in Alaska and nobody knows that song. I could play it first if I wanted to and it wouldn't matter. This is called 35 and Single. It's about being 35 and single. I wrote it when I was 35 and single. So I'm from a big family. I have 6 brothers and sisters. Some of them are younger, some of them are older. All of them, with the exception of one, are married. Some of them got married even though they were younger than me long before I did. And when I was 34, I was going to get married to a beautiful doctor in Colorado. My mom was very excited about that. And then I just saw the writing on the wall that, you know, there's no way this is going to work. And so I broke up with her, and my mom was devastated, more so than I was, I think. And then shortly after that, I moved to Alaska. So that is not exactly what you do if you're on the path to getting married and settling down, right? So my mom was very concerned, lightheartedly so. She knew that I would be fine no matter what I did, and that's all that mattered to her. But moving to Alaska, she didn't see any signs of me settling down. And not long after I moved to Alaska, I met someone who lived in Anchorage, and we, had a very light relationship, but it wasn't going to go anywhere. And so I was driving to Anchorage to go break it off, and my mom called. And I smiled and answered the phone. And she said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm on my way to Anchorage." She said, "Oh, you must be going to see that new woman that you met. Isn't she a dentist? That's so great. I can't believe you found someone up there." I said, "Well, I'm actually on my way to go break it off." There's this awkward silence on the phone. And she said, "Well, son, I got to tell you, I'm worried. You're 33 years old and you're showing 0 signs of settling down." "Mom, first of all, I'm 35. She said, "No, you're not." And I said, "Yes, I am." She sat there and counted her kids for a second and was like, "Yeah, I guess you are." Well, anyway, and that kind of broke the tension, and I said, "Don't worry, it's not like I'm not looking. I'll find the one, but I'm not going to settle. And you wouldn't want me to do that anyway." And she said, "No, of course not." I said, "Being 35 and single isn't the worst thing in the world. 'Cause I don't ever do nothing I don't want to do. I ain't ever heard an order that I had to listen to. I go out when I wanna, stay home when I wanna. It ain't a bad life, it's true." Well, my mama keeps saying that she's worried about me, 'cause I ain't found a woman and I just turned 33. I said, "Mom, I'm 35 and at least I'm still alive. So right now that's how it's gonna be." Some call it a curse, some call it a blessing. They ain't me, so they don't know. I guess they'll have to keep on guessing. 'Cause it's a funny old life indeed, when you got all this time to mingle. You can do anything you want when you're 35 and single. I can stop for a drink without an explanation. Go anywhere I want, my whole life is a vacation. Yeah, I got no reservation. When I eat up all the bacon, ain't nobody taking nothing from me. And about the hardest choice I ever gotta make is where I'm hanging out or whose boat we're gonna take when we're going out fishing. And I'm never wishing I ain't somewhere I don't wanna be. Some call it a curse, some call it a blessing. They ain't me, so they don't know. I guess they'll have to keep on guessing. 'Cause it's a funny old life indeed, when you got all this time to mingle. You can do anything you want when you're 35 and single. So that was the whole song. The first couple of times I played it, I very quickly noticed I was getting lots of side eyes from people in the crowd who weren't single and were very happy that they were that way. And it occurred to me that it may sound as though it were a knock to not being single, and this was never the point of the song. The point of the song was to get a rise out of my mom, because that's one of my favorite things to do. Anyway, I figured I better take care of it, so I wrote this last verse for all the not single people out there, including myself now. Well, don't get me wrong, 'cause I don't mean to knock it. If you're happy with somebody, I hope you lock it down for forever, and y'all stay together till however's longer than eternity. But I can sure tell you I don't need a reminder. I know she's out there, one day I'm gonna find her. There's really no debating, I know she's out there waiting, just thinking about the same thing as me. Some call it a curse, some call it a blessing, but they ain't me, so they don't know. I guess they'll have to keep on guessing, 'cause it's a funny old life indeed when you got all this time to mingle. You can do anything you want when you're 35 or 45 or 55 or 28 or 36 or 42 or 35 and single. Thank you. So, has everybody in here been to Alaska before? Good. Half of you. Cool. So this is going to make sense to half the people, and the other half it won't. But you'll probably still like it. Because that's where I live, in Alaska, and there's lots of songs about Alaska, and I knew that I wanted to write an Alaska song. But it's been done a lot. A lot of people talk about the mountains and the trees and the wildlife and all that, which is beautiful. It's a big part of what it is up there, and I wanted to thank you guys. Have a good evening. And so I wanted to write a song that was about Alaska that wouldn't make any sense if you didn't live there, but still have a catchy enough hook that people would like it even if they didn't know what the hell I was talking about, right? And I felt like I pulled it off, and I sent it to the producer on the second album, and he said, well, it's going to be a huge hit in Alaska. I don't know that it's ever going to get played anywhere else, but I was like, well, that's fine. That's, the only place I wanted to get played. First song on that album to make it on the radio in the lower 48 was this one. It's called Alaska Time. Fireweed and rhubarb wine. Sometimes it's day when it's night. Sometimes it's nighttime when it's day. It kinda comes with a state of mind. Green skies and 3 a.m. sunshine. But everybody I know is doing fine on Alaska time. So when I moved to Alaska, I did not know that it had its own time zone. I thought it was just on Pacific time. And so as soon as I heard that Alaska had its own time zone called Alaska Time, I knew that was going to be the title of my Alaska song. Don't end up here by mistake. You gotta get lost to find your way. We've all come this far, so I guess we'll stay. It's never too hot, it's never too cold. It'll make you feel young when you're old. You don't need a reason or a rhyme on Alaska time. Everybody thinks you lost it when you tell them where you found it. Ask your man, are you out of your mind? Nobody knows just how we do it, but we know there's nothing to it. There ain't nothing that could stop your shine on Alaska time. Met a couple. So I'm going to explain this last verse, actually. So when you move to Alaska, people think you've lost it. They think you're nuts. Or they say, well, I don't blame you. It's beautiful. You know, I've been there on a cruise. And when I say that, I mean everybody says that. You say, well, I love it, but I could never live there. And I'm like, yes, you couldn't. That's why you're on a cruise. Now go home. And some of my family down in the South, that doesn't hurt my feelings that they don't come visit. I'm like, yeah, no, totally. It's dark and cold and scary, and there's bears, and you should never come, ever. It's working out nicely so far. Only the cool ones come because that's, you know, Alaska's just full of the coolest people. Like, you have to have a screw loose to live up there. And that's what I love about it the most, I think. Met a couple people told me they know, because they came up on a boat back in the late summer of '99. It ain't for everyone, I'd have to agree, but that's just where you could find me, trying to catch some crazy fish swimming backwards in July on a last good time. Everybody thinks you lost it when you tell them where you found it. Ask you, man, are you out of your mind? Nobody knows just how we do it, but we know there's nothing to it. There ain't nothing that can stop your shine on a last good time. On a last good time. On a last good time. Thank you very much. So it rains. I know you guys know what it's like to get lots of rain. So go ahead and like triple that. And that's what happens in Alaska. It rains like 300 days a year up there. And thank goodness, because if it didn't, if it was the weather was like Colorado, there'd be 20 million people living in Alaska. And so if you're going to live up there, you just got to embrace it. And I embrace it most of the time. Sometimes I hate it, and I don't know why I live there, but usually it's all right. I got time for a couple of more, I think. You want to do that one? Okay. This is the title track off of my first record. Again, you guys, my name is Roland Roberts. I do have a couple of CDs for sale up here. My buddy that lives in Portland's let me borrow his truck. It's a jacked up 4-wheel drive. It gets terrible gas mileage, so I have to put gas in there. So I have a tip jar out for gas money. If you're so inclined, I sure would appreciate it. This one's called All About the Timing. This is the title track on a record that was released right before the live music industry went away as we know it, which what makes it even greater. This is called All About the Timing. It's about paying attention to what's going on around you and not really worrying about things you can't control. Well, the path that you follow, the life that you choose, they're both yours to win, and they're both yours to lose. We try to make a few choices, doing the best we can, going through the motions like it's part of a plan. It's all about the timing, not about the plan. If it weren't for the timing, well, I just might be your man. We ain't got no control, so do the best you can. It's all about the timing, not about the plan. They say the top's no destination, it's all about the ride. So be careful what you wait around on, 'cause life might pass you by. So dance like nobody's watching, live each day like it's your last, and keep on looking forward, don't you worry about the past. It's all about the timing, not about the plan. If it wasn't for the timing, well, I just might be your man. We ain't got no control, so do the best you can. It's all about the timing, not about the plan. Well, a wise old soul once gave me some advice I found real sound. Said even when you want to stop it, you know the world keeps spinning round. So be proud of what you do, boy. Don't try to please them all. If it don't kill you, it'll make you stronger. So go on and get up when you fall. It's all about the timing, not about the plan. If it wasn't for the timing, well, I just might be your man. We ain't got no control, so do the best you can. It's all about the timing, not about the plan. It's all about the timing, not about the plan. All right. I'm going to do one more. This one's called What Matters to You. I think I'm going to make this the title track on the new record. About a year and a half ago, I was traveling, and I was reading this article, and it was about this farmer in the Midwest who, everyone within several hundred miles of this particular farmer, their land had been bought up by a company, I think it was Monsanto, and it was turned into commercial farming, and this guy didn't want to sell, and it wasn't about the money to him. He just wanted his farm, and they did everything they could to get him to sell, and he never would, and then they sued him. And they claimed that because their seeds were blowing onto his property, his crops were growing better. And so he owed Monsanto money. And he fought them, and he won. And he disproved it. And then he turned around and countersued, claiming that all the crap they were putting on their crops was messing up his crops. And he won that one too. And so it was just such a great story of the little guy versus the big guy. And I think we need more of those stories today more than ever. And it just really hit home with me about what you can do if you're not staring at your phone and wondering who's liking your posts and this kind of thing. You know, all these things don't matter. They seem like they do, but they don't. And so I wrote this one here. This is called What Matters to You. And again, you guys, my name is Roland Roberts. It's been an absolute pleasure playing for y'all. Love you guys so much, and thank you again. I hope to see you down the road real soon. Must have had my wires crossed. Thought I won, turns out I lost. Thought I really knew, but I don't know. I don't know. You try your best to try your best. If it ain't one thing, it's the next. And does it ever stop? Nobody knows. There's no way to know. Across the nation, got this problem that we're facing, how that we don't know what's fake and what's true. Mom and pops are going under, and nobody stops to wonder why a couple guys have bought up all the food. What matters to you? Well, it feels like getting sick's a racket. Better pray that you can hack it, 'cause they ain't ever lining up for you when your deductible is due. Private prison, private yacht, private jet for a private dock. Every dollar paid by me and you. Well, it's sad, but it's true. Meanwhile, all across the nation, got this problem that we're facing, how that we don't know what's fake and what is true. Mom and pops keep going under, and nobody stops to wonder why the same three guys control all the news. What matters to you? everyone been hypnotized? One by one bound up their lies. Only filtered photographs will do. Photographs of who? Don't anybody care about what matters? It's as if their minds are scattered, all strung out on how to get some views. Well, I could use a couple more views. Meanwhile, all across the nation got this problem that we're facing, how that we don't know what's fake and what is true. Mom and pops keep going under, and nobody stops to wonder why this couple guys have bought up all the food. What matters to you? Yeah, what matters to you? Thank you guys so much. My name is Roland Roberts. I'm from Hatcher Pass, Alaska. I'll see you down the road real soon. Everybody have a great evening. Dave, just tell me when we're off and I'll unplug. All good? I would love to stay and hang out for longer. I really, really would. There's an arts and crafts workshop coming up, and I've got another gig in Portland in 2.5 hours, so I got to get going. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Save my soul from myself. I came home one lonely night to find life won't turn tonight. Save my soul. Save my soul. There's a light supposed to shine. I can't see which road is mine. Tonight, my Lord. Save my soul. Save my soul.
Take the dice lightly, may I walk the path brightly, not afraid of living, not afraid of dying, not afraid of feeling what I do not understand. When I was a baby, God and I went walking, in teenage Volvo music, we all heard our God a-talking. And my full lightness being, seeing without seeing, angels on the radio and heaven in the reading. Stoned for generations, but we still love their music. They don't like the drug, but they like the ones who use it. They don't like the groove, 'cause they're afraid to lose it. I don't remember anyone saying it will be you can fit the phrasing in like